You're listening to Dude Check This Out, episode 27! Podcast listeners, it's time for Dude Check This Out. It's Wednesday. Everyone loves Wednesday because that's when the show comes out. I'm here with Kevin Land.
Hey, it's Wednesday, the best day of the entire week.
It's the middle of the week.
It's hump day, baby.
Hump day. Sometimes I like to say it's Wiggler Wednesday.
It is Wiggler Wednesday. I did see an abnormally large caterpillar outside today.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I was just driving to
you
work.
Know what I was referring to.
Minding my own business.
By Wiggler Wednesday.
And then I look out my window at a stoplight and I go, hey, look at that. That guy, he just had his little hat on, waiting at the crosswalk. He was, to be fair, it was a little odd. He was standing up on just like four legs and all the other ones were up, and he had a little briefcase and one of his hands were on his hat and all of his other hands were like crossed or looking at his phone or, many things. He has many leg hands.
Sure.
And then I drove off. I didn't see how he walked, unfortunately, because there was a guy honking behind me. But
yeah, at any point did someone, jump on his head and he, turned red and got real mad?
Not that I saw, but I wouldn't put it past on Wiggler Wednesday for him to get a little upset.
It's the best day for anything related to that guy to happen. On Wiggler Wednesday, the day that this show comes out, it's check this out. Dude, check this out.
Check out this Whittler.
Check out
Wiggler.
The Whittler.
Yeah, it's when Wigglers they get a big piece of wood.
Yeah.
And they wrap all their legs around it and shake their legs really fast and whittle it down into a little pike, and then they use it to fight Mario.
Excellent.
It's Wiggler Wednesday.
Wiggler Wednesday.
That's
here
right.
On Dude.
We're doing great.
I'm having a hard time saying the title of
doing
this
so
show
good
today. That show being Dude Check This Out.
Hey, that's us.
The show where me and Kevin, who have been friends for a long time, check out different entertaining things like comics and movies and TV shows, music, all sorts of things.
Yep. All the good stuff. All the media.
The good stuff. How you been doing, Kevin?
I've been doing good. Work is starting to kind of kick up for me.
Excellent.
I got I went to a kickoff meeting today where I feel extremely overwhelmed with the amount of work I am now tasked to do that I don't quite feel prepared to do. But, it's going to be great.
Yeah, everyone there seems to believe in you.
Yeah, my boss was like, all right, good luck. And I went, I don't know what all this is. And he goes, you'll be fine. And I said, oh, okay. But it was good. I had to wear a suit and tie today, so I felt very classy.
Nice.
I wore black slacks, a gray jacket with a blue, solid blue shirt and a blue striped tie.
What kind of shoes you wearing?
I was wearing these black dress shoes I'm looking at them right now. I have big fat ones that are kind of not that great, but are more comfortable. But I wore my nice little slimmer ones that make my feet look not as big. I was very classy. Yeah, and the
Got
jacket
your fancy
fit.
lad clothes on.
Oh
today.
yeah, I was such a fancy lad. Yeah, I even put a little gel in my hair.
Ooh.
Look good. I shaved recently, so my beard is really nice and 5 o'clock shadowy right now. So it's not normally, because it gets I never let it get really long, but right now it's right where I really like it.
Nice.
So I will say I felt very attractive today. That Wiggler was definitely giving me the eyes.
Oh my goodness.
But it's all good.
Sweet.
Yeah. How you doing? Got any interesting news going on?
Doing all right. Still doing my job thing, legal videography. Weird stuff happening sometimes, but it's fun to witness. Had a nice vacation in Austin this past weekend.
Yeah, I was also a part of that.
Yeah,
that was super
you
fun.
were also there.
Yeah, we went and we were adults and we went to Barton Springs.
Yeah.
And swam around there, went and shopped on South Congress, and then we played a bunch of board games and drank a lot of alcohol.
Drink a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, I think it was mostly me and a little bit of you and a little bit of Daniel, but we almost finished that entire bottle of whiskey.
I mean, Daniel had a bathroom situation. So.
Oh, he was fine. He only threw up once. Wasn't that big of a deal. So, and I don't know whether or not it was like he's like, I feel so sick that I'm gonna like die, or if it was just I drank too much too fast.
I think it was that.
Yeah. So, because there's definitely been like, I remember one time in college, my college roommate drank way too much, and
like considering like maybe we should go to the hospital.
Oh, not that bad, but enough where I was worried about him.
Yeah.
And so I find him sitting outside. So he was just like, we were at a Frisbee party, right? And I was doing fine. I wasn't drinking. I drove, so I wasn't drinking at all. And I asked like, hey, where'd he go? And so I look outside and he's sitting on the front porch, just sitting with like his head like hung down. And I was like, hey, are you okay? And he looks up and he goes, we have to go home. I was like, oh, okay. And so I ended up like helping him walk to the car, and I'm driving back, and he's like, I feel so bad right now. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. So we get to our apartment. I like help him up the stairs, and he goes, I forgot something. I think it's like I forgot my wallet or I forgot something that I need to go back and get. And I was like, stay here. I'm going to go get it for you. So I went and got it for him. I came back. I knocked on his door, and he didn't respond, so I just assumed he was asleep. But I didn't feel super comfortable just like not knowing. So I stayed up for about like another hour or so, like kind of knocking and waiting to see what would happen. So I eventually like go into his room, and well, one of the reasons I thought, okay, I heard the shower running. And so I was like, okay, he's probably taking a shower. It's not a big deal. And so I was like, okay, well, like it's been an hour and he's still in the shower. So I was like, okay, let me go in there. So I like open the door. He's not in his room. So I like knock on the door to his bathroom, and I was like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And he didn't answer. So I go in, and he is completely clothed.
All right.
Laying down in his bathtub with the shower on him.
Oh, no.
And just vomit just all over the bathtub.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was just everywhere. And it was like gross, like chicken things, or I don't know. But it made me feel better that he was like, at least not, he was just asleep in his bathtub with the shower on. So I like kind of cleaned him off and like sat him up, and I tried to wake him up, but he didn't wake up really. Just kind of sat him up and turned the water off. It kind of left him. And so yeah, Daniel wasn't that bad.
No, absolutely not.
Daniel was just like, he just kind of threw up a little bit and then felt better.
Yeah, like we were playing Rock Band, and then he for a second was just like, okay, here's what's happening. I'm gonna go into that bathroom and I'm gonna throw up. Y'all keep partying. I'll be right back.
Yeah, but he and Sam were the ones that really, really pushed staying up really late. Because at like 2:45, I was ready to go to bed. And Daniel and Sam were like, no, we're going to party. And I was like, it's so late. We've been up since like 10.
But that's why we're here.
At 2:45, I was ready to go to sleep.
Especially when we're driving the next day.
Yeah, but
back to Houston.
I didn't want to be the one to like turn the party off, right?
Yeah.
So then at like 3:30, I was like, okay, that's enough. I'm going to bed. Like Sam got up to like go wash her face. Like, good enough excuse. Goodbye. I'm going to sleep. But it was a really good time.
Yeah.
Played a lot of board games, a lot of Rock Band.
Oh, I remember we were talking to, I think, Pat's mom.
Yeah.
About the games we were playing, and we forgot one, and I remembered it was Red Dragon Inn.
Oh, of
course. The game where the most drinking happened.
Yes. Okay, I need to... Whose game was that? Was that Sam's game?
I believe that was, Sam and Jonathan's game.
Okay, I might have to buy that, because I definitely want to play that.
It's a really good drinking game.
Yeah, with like a D&D people, right? Like, as our D&D characters play that game.
Well, because I just remember, you flip over cards, like the drink cards at the end of each round,
Mm-hmm.
and it like affects like how much you have, like a health stat and an alcohol content stat, and that affects your alcohol content. And we're in drinking rules. You take as many drinks as it says affects your alcohol content.
Yep.
So me and Daniel kept getting cards that were like, oh, drink 4 times.
Yeah. Well, because Daniel took like, there's 10, it goes like from 10 down to 0. And then up back to 20 for like your health and your drinking. And Daniel went from 0 all the way, like from like 0 to 10, and then from 10 all the way up to like 16 or something insane.
Yeah.
And so he like took 16 drinks, and I took like 8, I think, and I just got punched until I died.
Yeah,
But I think I won that game, actually, now that I think about it.
I think you did. Yeah, I got knocked out around the same time Mooney did because I also like did not take that many hits to health and took a lot of alcohol content. So that one I got pretty sauced and rode into Sheriff of Nottingham.
That was
on
so
a
fun.
pretty good place to do that game.
Sheriff of Nottingham is great when you got enough liquor in you to be totally loose, but not so much that you're like completely not functional.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot. I feel like that's where I hit it too.
Especially for silly accents.
Oh, it was so fun. I got to play it 2 weekends in a row. I'm just like so satisfied because I got that expansion for like Christmas or my birthday and haven't played it until like 2 weeks ago. So I still don't know how to play the actual expansion rules, but that's not why you play the game anyway. So it's not that big a deal.
We didn't even play a full game. We played one round.
Well, with 6 people, that's so many.
It is a lot. And with the silly accents, you spend a lot of time in between rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Goofing off.
Yeah, and that's why I play the game, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. But it was so fun, man. I think that would also be a good game to play as like your D&D characters. Because like you bring your characters as Nottingham people. That'd be pretty fun.
Just an excuse to riff and joke.
Oh yeah,
in character,
pretty much.
Yeah, excellent. Well, speaking of D&D characters,
yeah, you see how you like how I set that up for you?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This week we're talking about a comic book
Yep.
based on role-playing games. We are going to be talking about the Dynamite Comics presents Pathfinder.
Pathfinder.
It is, gosh, when did this comic come out? As I am pulling up the page on Comixology.
Oh, I don't know. I should look. I can pull it up on my phone.
It's well, we're talking about Volume 1.
Yep.
Dark Waters Rising. It came out in 2013.
Okay.
2013. That was the second year I was working at 8th Dimension, which is where I read this on a monthly basis. It's put out by Dynamite Comics. Written by Jim Zub. Art by Andrew Huerta.
Got you.
And yeah, I had a lot of fun reading this monthly. It's a fantasy comic based on the Pathfinder RPG system. I believe all of the characters in it are they're iconic characters that if you read the lore, I guess, is mostly what it uses those characters for the main beats of the Pathfinder story or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the comic stars your main party characters. We got Veleros, the, I guess, fighter type character.
Yep.
He's got swords and stuff. We got Seoni, the sorceress.
Mm-hmm.
We got Marisil, the elf rogue.
Yeah, the elven rogue.
We got Harsk, the dwarf ranger, which is
pretty
which is
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
We got Ezrin, the old man wizard.
Yep. And
we got Kira, the cleric.
Yep.
Which is a nice, cool spread of characters. I guess about half of them are human. The other half are... Well, actually, no. A little more than half is human.
Yeah, Seoni's human. Valeros is human. Ezrin is human. And Kyra is human. So 4 of the, 7?
Yeah, the only non-human characters, I guess, is Harsk and Marisil.
Okay, 4 or 6.
But that's all your whole cast of characters. I would say it seems like they're all pretty early level. The story is all about goblins and stuff. And the cool part about the book that I think kind of sets it apart from other books is that it actually provides a module in the books where you can run the adventure that you just read in the Pathfinder system.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things. They give you, in the first 2 issues, they give you all of the character sheets for all the people, for all these, heroes. And then at the end, they're like, hey, here is more or less an encounter to run. Like the encounter they just did, right? So in the first issue, it's, they're attacked by goblins. So here's the gauntlet ambush. In the second issue, it's they attack a bunch of goblins. So here's the goblin leader and all his people. And here's how you would run that one. And then, there's spiders, or, here's the big boss lady. And they give you a little map and like the stats for the enemies, and kind of like a little bit of background of like, hey, here's the world, here's why they're doing what they're doing, and if you wanted to run it, here's how you would, like, enough that if I was going to DM it, that would give me all the information I needed, and then I would just use that and just, riff with the players to get them to where they're going.
Yeah, which is especially thoughtful of, like, the writers and the people who are making this, because they obviously knew, like, hey, if people play Pathfinder, they'll probably want to read this, and then they'll be inspired by this adventure and want to run something similar.
Yeah.
So they just gave them the adventure, which is super cool.
It's super cool.
And also, like, the printing of this trade, usually, like, trades are, like, might be released in hardcover first, trade later, or like a trade paperback later. Mm-hmm. But the way these were released in hardcover is, like, basically the way that all the Pathfinder books are released in, like, those kind of hardcovers.
Oh, okay.
So it can, like, match all your other modules, which is super
nice. That is
nice.
really nice.
Yeah. I guess they've done, I think, 2 volumes of this main series, and they've had a bunch of spin-offs since then. I guess just kind of like going off on different arcs of their campaign and whatever.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this first one is you kind of get to meet the whole crew. At first, it's just Veleros, Mariasil, and Sione. And they go to the town of Sandport.
Yep.
Where they meet up with their wizard friend Ezran, who is working very hard to come up with an adventure so grand that he can chronicle it in the Pathfinder Chronicles.
And be accepted as a Pathfinder, because that's his dream, right?
This is his big goal. And they meet up with the Dwarven Ranger, Harsk.
Yep.
So they can help, so he can help, like,
track down all the goblins and what's going on.
Goblins and stuff, yeah, because they get their first kind of quest, I guess, which is the people of Sandport are like, hey, goblins have been acting weird lately. Can you, like, go maybe see if you can find something out about that?
Yeah, they're attacking in broad daylight when they normally don't, and they seem organized and fearless. So, like, what's going on? They're all gross looking. Can you do something?
Yeah. So they're out fighting goblins one day, and they bring like a corpse back, and Harsk is able to kind of ascertain, like, well, this is very strange, but we need more evidence. So let's go out to the junk pit.
Yeah, where the goblins hang out.
Yeah, where the goblins hang out, because they like salvaging the junk for treasure, and see if we can, see what's up. So they go out there, they get ambushed by goblins, it's a bad time.
And I'm pretty sure that's when Kira shows up.
They meet Kira outside of Sandport. I think it was after a heavy night of drinking.
Yeah.
Because freaking Veleros, like, just comes out of nowhere and barfs right next to her.
And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, praying out here. He's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
She's like, that's really gross. You should take care of your body. And he's like, I'm fine.
Living this lifestyle. And the art's so great on that page because
so nasty.
He just got barf all over his face.
Yeah, it's gross, man.
Yeah, they meet up with Kira. She wants to have an adventure with them, and they go off and to the junk pit. They get ambushed by goblins. They see all the goblins have, like, crazy weird boils on them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they are able to parse out that there's some kind of weird cult stuff happening.
Yeah.
With these goblins.
They're getting, like, weird drinks from this cult that they end up following the goblins back to. And they see this weird drink stuff. They attack them, like, interrogate one guy, and, like, okay, we know where they are, so let's head there. Have a bunch of, like, adventures along, like, a bunch of battles and stuff along the way.
The Pauper's Grave, have a fun, like, grave battle. They wander into the forest where there's giant spiders.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the temple where all the cultists are, where you find out that the, I guess, like, leader of the cult is this, like, matriarch, I guess you could say, who has been feeding all the goblins this dark water that gets them all boiled up and crazy, and she's feeding off that energy to then fuel the Lamashu, which is, like, their
evil, like, god,
eldritch god, that is developing in her womb, and she has, like, a crazy gross boily monster pregnant belly.
Yeah, because, like, Lamashu is the god.
Yeah.
And so it's like a spawn of the god that is, like, in her womb.
Yeah, because Lamashu is, like, the goddess of monsters, the mother of monsters.
Yeah. And so it, like, kind of impregnated her, and she's feeding off of their crazed energy to feed this baby monster thing,
which she will then become part of.
Yeah, she, like,
gives born.
She gives birth to it, and then it consumes her. and then she becomes one with this giant tentacle monster thing.
Yeah.
And so she like captures all the good guys, also feeds them the crazy juice to feed off of their power as well.
And they have crazy hallucinations. We get origin stories.
Yeah. And then the Marisol, whatever.
Something like that.
Doesn't get captured, sneaks in, frees them, then they fight it and beat the big bad guy. And then they go back to the town for a night of drinking since they, saved the day.
Yeah, D&D stuff.
Yeah, just classic D&D role-playing stuff.
Yeah. So that's the main plot. That's the synopsis. That's what happens in the book.
Yep.
Let's get a hot take. What'd you think of Pathfinder Dark Waters Rising?
Right. So it really, really felt like a D&D campaign, right? Like it felt so much like one. I've played in enough D&D to kind of know the story beats and know the beats and how it all goes down. And it really felt like one, which was super fun to kind of watch and read through, right? Because as a story, and since it's not an actual D&D campaign where there's not like social pressure, since when I play D&D with my friends, I don't really feel pressure, but you can't, like, when you give a story in like D&D, it can't really be perfect.
Yeah, because it's improv and you're doing it on the fly.
Yeah,
in that moment,
and
it can't really be thought out.
And it's hard to do like really cinematic things, so like the whole hallucinations. Yeah, that's the word. The whole hallucinations bit is something that like I would really want to do as a DM. Like, oh, they're going to feed you the thing and it's going to make you see your worst fear, right?
Yeah, but that really has to like line up. Like the players have to get there before you're able to present that.
Yeah, and to have a player, for me to be like, it's your worst fear, it's hard to, as a player, to really get into the character so much where you like can really experience that fear, right? Because you're sitting at a table rolling dice.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really, really sell that as a DM, even though that's like an ideal character moment, right? But in a story, I'm writing it. It's easy. I just write it down and the characters do it because they're characters in my story. So it was like kind of an almost idealized D&D campaign where all like the amazing story bits you wish you could do in a campaign, you can, because it's actually a story and not people sitting around at a table. So it kind of had this like idealized D&D campaign thing that I thought was really, really cool. It made me want to DM again, because I just liked the goblin story was so simple and classic, but how he put the twist on it of, but they're like being fed this crazy demon juice because the like giant crazy pregnant lady's gonna do whatever this crazy stuff. And in D&D, I find whenever I write, similar to when we did that whole Dread campaign, right? Kind of like gross. I'm very drawn to cults. I think they're super fun. So like kind of cult and like gross, like not body horror, but kind of like almost gore type deal stuff as like what the evil people are doing, right? So when we did that campaign with the whole like demon devil thing, when we killed Daniel's character, I said there was like blood everywhere and all this crazy altar where he got sacrificed and all that stuff. I find that really easy to write in D&D campaigns. So this was something that really lined up of it's classic D&D with goblins attacking the village, right? Like that. You can't get more textbook than that.
Oh yeah.
But there's enough twist on it to make it interesting to want to know what's going on. So I thought the writing was just fantastic, really great. And it was like so easy to read and fun to read. I literally read it all in just one sitting.
Oh, wow.
I just like sat down and read the whole book.
Jeez. And then you read the second one.
And then I read the second one, yeah. So it wasn't a book that made me like, wow, really think, or like Essex County, right? That like blew my mind or had a ton of things to say. It was just like a super fun D&D campaign that I got to sit through and kind of experience with the characters that I had a great time reading. So yeah, it was super good. The characters are engaging. It's fun. The art is nuts and gross, but really fun to look at. So it was a good time.
guess let's dig into the writing and the art a little bit more now.
Okay.
So it was written by Jim Zub, who before this wrote Skull Kickers for Image, which is very similar. Jim Zub, I will always follow him for his fantasy comics because he is really, really good at writing stories like they're being played like a game of D&D.
100%.
He does that really well with Skull Kickers, which is like, it's just two characters in that in the party. It's like a dwarf and a ranger dude who has like a gun, just like a sick gun. But Skull Kickers was really awesome. He did this Pathfinder. He's now writing the official D&D comics for IDW now.
Cool.
He has some other stuff like Wayward, which I really, really like, which is a like kind of his take on manga.
Okay.
Which is super cool, but less fantasy stuff. Well, I mean, it is fantasy. There's a lot of like Japanese mythological stuff happening in that book, but less like role-playing fantasy. But yeah, I really like his style. Everything is just like really off the wall, and he writes the characters like they're being played by people.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. And the art by Andrew Huerta, I don't really know him from anything else. I think I really only know him from this book, but I really think he has kind of a 90s kind of style to his art. It reminds me a lot of Joe Madureira, if you have any idea who that is. I don't. He did like a lot of like X-Men stuff in the 90s, and he's also the artistic director for the Darksiders series of games.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. No, I get that.
Yeah, a lot of dudes with like really like a lot of lines, a lot of dudes with bulky shoulders.
Yeah, very much like the upside down triangle.
Yeah, yeah.
Shape.
Really,
right.
really sick looking swords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like he's trying to really kind of ape that style. Well, not ape, but he has inspiration from that style, obviously. And a lot of the art, especially in the combat scenes and the vomit scene, is just super gross.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the art specifically gets like, they don't go for this like idealized version of fantasy, right? So when you think of Marvel Comics or DC Comics before all the Dark Knight, Evil Batman stuff, right? Maybe more now DC Comics. Everything looks really clean. So even if, the guys are getting beat up and they're all battered and bruised, even when you cut to them, they still look clean.
Yeah.
Right? They might have like, some bruises on them, but the bruises don't look that bad. And everything has like really nice lines and all that stuff. And this one is not super jagged lines, but their characters are, especially Valeros and Harsk, or an Ezrin too, they have like, they're wrinkly, right? They're not like super attractive dude characters.
Yeah, they're not smooth.
Yeah, they're not smooth lines and nice and pretty. And when the blood starts going, it's very grotesque.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's like really nice splashing effects, splattering, like just layering on the skin and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Or in the spider scene, he's like, I have it everywhere. And like, oh, we're going to have to cut off your hair. And he's like, I don't want you to cut my hair off. He's like, well, that sucks. Here we go. He doesn't shy away from kind of the real life gore and just kind of grossness that was like pervasive in that time, right? When you can't take baths whenever you want, washing hands or, cleanliness isn't really a thing.
Yeah.
And so when you throw up, it's not like you can go wash your face. So it's just kind of caked on you for a while. Or if you go out in the wilderness for a long time and you fight someone, you get blood on you. And then you can kind of smear it off or go find a river because that's just kind of how it is. And so he doesn't shy away from the gore and the blood, which makes all the battle scenes just like viscerally satisfying.
Yeah, and there's a lot of battle scenes in this book.
So when specifically Valeros?
Yeah, the Valeros, the fighter.
When he kills things, it feels so good.
Oh, yeah.
Because he is all about blood and battle and just stabs goblins through their head and they're screeching and their eyes are coming out and he's like, yes! And there's blood going everywhere. There are a few panels where he is like really going to town and it just feels so, so good.
He's got really good like 90s action dude face art.
Yeah.
Like, especially like I think it's at the end of the first issue. When they're being ambushed by goblins in the treasure pit. And yeah, he just jumps down from the cliff yelling blood and battle and is just like freaking screaming.
Yeah. And so this is the kind of seeing some of these things, it makes me kind of understand why the 90s were the way that they were. right? Like I'm kind of like, okay, no, I can see why this was, popular and why people liked
yeah.
this, right? Like I can see the appeal because Valeris is pretty badass.
Oh yeah, and every character was Valeros in the 90s.
Yeah, I also thought probably the most disgusting thing was like the evil sorceress's like
Her
stomach.
monster belly.
Yeah, because it had like
it was really hard to look at.
it had really gross like vein stuff going on, but it was like bulging and like blue and green and yellow, and it was nasty. And then she turns
Veiny.
then she turns into the big tentacle monster at the end. That's like really, really jagged lines and the sharp, all the things with the goblins and all their boils and their sharp, jagged teeth.
Yeah.
It just seems really like gruesome and like really, really fun and cool to be all about that.
I thought those designs were really good too, because that's actually one of the things I really like about it. Like Pathfinder has a really good aesthetic.
Yeah.
I like the art that they use for all their books, and I really, really like the way their goblins look.
Yeah, their goblins are rad.
Yeah, like just like their normal goblins look really cool, but then they also had like for this book they have these gross dark water goblins with like their crazy boils and stuff, and those look really cool too.
Yeah. So the art was fantastic and just like viscerally satisfying to look at, right? I also really liked how the story did feel like a D&D campaign, right? Like top to bottom, straight D&D campaign.
Yeah, like they do things like you would expect, like kind of players to just kind of talk about minutia, like they're on the trail and they're like, oh, should we go like hunting for food, or like, oh, I don't know, we have these rations and I don't really want to make Harsk like go hunt a deer that we're just like maybe not even going to eat all of because we're traveling to a place.
Yeah, and so they do like those kind of things, and it's the classic, we battle, so then we travel a little bit, and while we travel we have some character moments. Okay, then we rest, and as we rest we take turns with watches. They go through at least one of that. Then it's like, okay, well, now we battle again. Now we're going to travel some more. And as we travel, we go through character moments. And so it has just like the pacing and the feel of a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And so it just feels so right to be like, oh, no, a battle should be happening. Oh, yeah, no, there's the battle. Okay, cool. And then okay, well, now that the battle is over, we're going to kind of decompress a little bit, talk, and be like, oh, what are your hopes and dreams? You were really cool in that battle. That was neat. Oh, we interrogate this person some. Oh, okay, well, let's go to sleep. Let's wake up the next morning. We're walking a little bit. Time for another battle.
Yeah, kind of reset, assess what the quest is going forward now, like what the next thing we should be moving towards is.
So it just felt like everything was the pacing and how we told the story. If he wasn't trying to go for a D&D campaign, which I hope he was, or a Pathfinder campaign or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, if that's what he was shooting for, he like nailed it. It was so good. And
that's
so
what he does best.
Yeah, and it's just fun to, it's always fun to talk about and hear people's campaigns.
Yeah. Now let's dig into some, like one of the best parts of this book is all the characters.
Yeah.
So let's dig into the characters.
Okay.
What were some of your favorite characters and favorite things about those characters?
So
great segue, Noah.
Yeah, nailed it. Sione, right? She was rad. She was like the leader of the group, right? She's this barbarian sorceress lady. I don't know, barbarian in the sense of like she has like...
She's from a tribe.
Yeah, she has a bunch of tattoos all over her. And she's this sorcerer lady. She's this very powerful. I think what they did with her was really, really interesting. How she has this Conan the Barbarian hot lady body, right? Where she like wears just like a cloth over her front and her back. And so she like shows a ton of side boob all the time. And she has like all tattoos all over her, and she's got this like big sweet hair, and she's drawn really, really sexy. But she's the most mature of the entire group.
Oh yeah, her and Ezrin are like the planners. They're the ones that like okay, here's where we're going. Here's like some strategy stuff. Most of the time, Valeros just neglects what they're saying and jumps in anyways.
Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting that they kind of dressed her up as, she's our pinup girl, the person that we'll put on the front of our magazines, the person put in front of their comic books to get people to pick it up. But then when you actually read and spend time with her, she has this whole, in the little synopsis of her backstory, it's like, being blessed with this power is actually a bit of a curse because I'm outcast from my own group, from my own tribe. And then I come to these people and no one really knows or accepts me because I have all these tattoos that segregate me from everybody. But even though that's the case, I'm going to step up, find my own family, find my own home, and be the leader of this group. Where in the second book, more so than the first one even, she really steps up as a leader even when Ezrin and stuff gets a little angry or gets a little nitpicky, or a little mopey or whatever. She's the one that's always ready to step up and say, hey, everybody, like, chill out, quit arguing. That's not going to help. Let's pull together. We're a team. And actually is the most mature person in the entire group, even though she's like at least designed at first glance as like, oh, she's probably just the stupid, sexy one.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really
the hot one.
Yeah, that they kind of do it that way, but then subvert that with their entire personality.
Yeah. She's a really cool character.
Yeah, which is really interesting. So Valeros was rad. Yeah. Valeros is the stereotype. Like, they just lean into it, play into it, and that allows for a lot of interesting and kind of D&D character moments, right?
Yeah.
I'm still convinced. I know that on his character sheet that they give, it says fighter. I'm pretty sure he's a barbarian.
He seems very barbarian in his, like, gung-ho attitude to always get into combat.
Yeah, and I know he has armor on, right? That he, like, says, like, oh, I can't sleep in this armor and stuff. But I'm pretty sure he's a barbarian.
He's got a barbarian style of fighting.
And just how he's drawn and stuff is not I'm trained really well. It's, I just, blood in battle, I'm going to go kill everyone, right?
Right. And I also really like kind of his arc of, like, really gung-ho about getting into battle because he just loves fighting, but then also realizing, like, oh, I got way over my head. Like, I was not supposed to jump in at that moment to take all these guys on, because I just if it wasn't for, like, someone pulling me out, I would have just gotten slaughtered.
Yeah. So I thought he was super cool. And I think that he really fits the mold perfect of the I'm blood and battle crazy guy. And I do think that they needed that for the story that they wanted to tell, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he's as interesting of a character as Sione is, but I think he's a more fun character, right? He has a good time.
Yeah.
And that also leads to Mariciel.
Yeah.
Mariciel. Yeah. She's probably the character I like spending the most time with.
She's like one of the more like lore heavy characters just because she's an elf and has been around for so long.
Yeah, and she's just kind of like the goofiest one, right? Like she's like Ezrin and Sione are like, and Kira is like they're like real serious and somber, and she's like, guys, just like lighten up, like come on, like let's.
Yeah, and her and Valeros have like kind of a cute flirty relationship.
Yeah. And so I just think that she was like a real fun character to be around in the beginning, and as you read in this one and specifically in the second book, she gets like way, way more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And it is probably the most interesting character out of all of them. Because there's one scene that I really, really liked with her where they end up...
Is it the cultist?
Yeah, they end up like taking a cultist capture and interrogating him. And then as they're walking back to where like him and his people are, they're just bringing him with them. And while it's her watch, she's staying up to watch. He tries to convince her, like, hey, you don't belong here. You should be with us. These guys aren't your actual family. Like, you need to be on our side. And she's like, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And then eventually, once she gets the information out of him of, oh, how many people are there? Who's your god? That kind of stuff. She's like, yeah, you never stood a chance. Like, I've lived multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
I've lived more lives than you can imagine. Maybe not that, but like I've lived multiple human lifetimes. You think you can convince me? You think that you can just like woo me with your words? Like, don't even try. And so that was a moment like, dang, like that's really cool.
She's probably done this a million times.
Yeah, like there's
really, really good at it.
Yeah, there's way more to her character than what she is letting on, what the writer's letting on. And then in the next book, you kind of get into that more where there's a point where they go to this new town and you realize that she has some backstory where, she was like a thief with these other humans and now those humans are super old and she just bailed on them and found this new group. So how many groups has she bounced between, right? That, all the humans got old and died, so I just found a new group of humans to kind of mess around with them, right?
Yeah.
And her and Kira end up having a relationship and stuff, and she's just a super, super interesting character. And kind of they play into the, elves live multiple human lifetimes. So what does that look like halfway through?
Yeah.
Which is super interesting. Then there's Ezrin, who is, I think, is they also do a nice, because they want the classic lineup, right? They want the old man wizard, they want the buff barbarian guy or fighter guy, right? They want the hot rogue they want like the hot elven girl. They got the hot lady girl with the sorcerer or whatever. And so they have to have the classic old man wizard.
Yeah.
But instead of, I've been studying forever, blah, 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 whatever, they have, I just got into this 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and they have a really good reason for an old man wizard to be hanging out with these low-level chumps.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting to have the old guy, but again, similar to the goblins, it's super classic, but a new twist to keep it interesting and to keep the readers engaged and be able to tell new and interesting stories, even with classic characters.
Yeah.
So I thought Ezrin was super cool. I like all the backstory that they give him of, you're an old crazy coot. Like, what do you think you can get into the Pathfinder Chronicles now? Are you kidding me? Like, that takes years and years and years, and you don't have that left in your life. But him to still be, because it's, they're drawn like 90s comics, so he still looks like fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Still got muscles.
Yeah, still got muscles, and he's a cool guy. And so kind of him hanging out with all these youngins, even though, Harsk or Miraciel are probably 100, 150, 200, 300 years old or whatever. So even Ezrin is young compared to them.
Yeah.
So I think that what they did with him and the story of an old man trying to break into the wizarding field at such an old age is a cool character concept that I could see either, you or someone else coming up with, me going wow, that's so cool. I'm really excited to see how this works in our campaign, right?
Yeah, Ezrin actually is the character that inspired me to I haven't made the character yet, but I really want to play a wizard who is an old man and play him like an old man.
Yeah.
With the rest of the characters. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. And so that leaves Harsk and Kira, and those are the two in this book that definitely don't get the most attention.
Yeah.
And Harsk specifically, he's just a grumpy old dwarf, right?
Yeah.
He's a grumpy old dwarf, and he's a ranger dwarf,
which is super interesting.
Which is a cool combination, and I'm sure that in later books, and even the second book, he doesn't get a ton of love. That they kind of go into his backstory more because his brother got killed, so he swore revenge and then got outcast because he didn't like the mines. He'd rather be in nature.
Yeah, his dad thought he was weird because he'd rather be prancing around in the forest instead of down in the mines.
Yeah. Though there was one line of his that I really, really liked when they're fighting the final bad lady. He's grabbing onto a tentacle, and I think the line is something like, my body is born of stone, you can't kill me or whatever. And I was like, man, what a dwarf thing to say. That sounds rad. So Harsk is still pretty cool. And then Kira was the cleric of Sarenrae, which jumped out to me because in Critical Role, when they first started, Matt was running a Pathfinder campaign for them.
Oh.
And then when it went to actually became Critical Role and Geek and Stranger, they went to D&D 5e. So their cleric in that group, Pike, she was a cleric of Sarenrae because they were using gods from Pathfinder.
Oh, cool.
And then eventually once Matt made his own books in his own world and I bought their guide, he's like, oh yeah, it's now called the Dawn Mother or something, right? Because he can't use Pathfinder's gods. So I was like, oh hey, cool, Sarenrae. I know you're about redemption or something, right? Redemption and fire, purity. So I did like how Kyra, she was a battle mage.
Yeah.
Or a battle cleric.
So she can still get in there and mix it up.
Yeah, where her magic, so magic was drawn really, really interesting and throughout the whole books, right? So I liked Sione would always glow and have some cool fire, and hers, she would always pray and she would spend some time kind of praying about it. And then would just wipe the floor with everybody.
Yeah, really big magical explosion effects.
And it looked so cool. So her magic was super rad. And there was one point where they see the cultists feeding the goblins, and she's the one that's my god won't stand for this, and then jumps out to go fight them, and everyone's oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And there's one point where they're fighting the final boss, and she just healed a bunch of people. And Sione comes back and she's like, hey, you need to stay back here to continue to heal us because that's the best strategy. We can do a bunch of damage. You can heal us all. We know the kind of support, whatever class. And she's like, no, I'm not going to sit back and heal you. Kidding me? Like, my God, I'm not a wuss. My God's not a wuss. She like lights her scimitar on fire, throws it, and she's like, no, I'm going to go fight now. Bye.
Yeah, that's like written like someone who is just committed to their character.
Yeah, and just the fact that, because clerics, at least when I started, right? Clerics were, and kind of still have the reputation of being, oh, you're the cleric, so you're a healer, sick. So we're all going to go and fight. And when we get hurt, you're going to run around and heal us. Cool. And kind of have that bad stereotype of the class no one wants to play because they don't want to be the healer. Where I think clerics are way cooler than that. And Kyra is like, no, I'm way cooler than that. Yeah, I could just stay back and heal everybody, but I'm going to go be a badass. So when things get really dire, I'll heal you guys again, but you guys look fine. And so it's just really, really cool to see that in there, that to not kind of just continue to perpetuate that stereotype of clerics are lame, just healer classes instead of the go kick butt classes.
Yeah, I like playing clerics. They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think clerics are cool. So that's pretty much, I think that's all of them. There's also that druid.
Yeah, Leany
that shows up that seems like much more of a, in the D&D comparison, right? It's the guest character.
Yeah.
No, just for one session.
Like, hey, my pal Derek showed up and
wants to play,
so we'll just have him sit in for this one session.
Yeah, and he can be this gnome druid. Cool. All right, here's your character. Like, sit in and play with us. Oh, you gotta go? Okay, yeah, well, she really wants to come with you, but she's got stuff to do, so you guys are on your own. So that also felt just like another classic thing of, oh, we have a guest person just because they want to play this weekend. We're just gonna throw them in because we want our friends to play.
Yeah.
So everything kind of felt that way, and I don't know if that's me projecting onto the book, but I definitely felt that way. And she was all right. She was cute.
She had a cool tiger.
Yeah, she had a tiger with a like leaf on its head.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
Cool. So, yeah, I'm really glad you enjoyed this book so much.
Oh, it was awesome.
So what are, I guess, your closing thoughts for Pathfinder?
So my closing thoughts for it is the art style is great. It is a little gross and a little more
on purpose, I would feel.
Yeah, a little more brutal than like classic comic books, like superhero comics, right?
Yeah.
But I think it really serves the purpose that it's trying to do. It makes the story feel unique, the world feel kind of visceral and real, and I really, really enjoyed it. It felt like a D&D campaign, top to bottom, like a low-level D&D campaign. Like, hey, everyone start at level 2 or 3. We're going to go, like, murder some goblins, and there's going to be a big boss at the end, right? Everything about it felt very classic and iconic, but just with a cool enough twist to keep it interesting and different. So very, very iconic characters, super iconic story. You look at it and you're like, oh, there's a barbarian, a cleric, a wizard, a sorcerer, and a rogue, and a ranger fighting a bunch of goblins. That could be any D&D or any campaign, right? And that's like the iconic giant party. I mean, the only way to make it more iconic would just be like 4 instead of 7, right? But, who cares? Going and doing the D&D thing. And it felt really fun to read, felt really cool. All the characters were really interesting, enough twists on them to make them unique and wanting to learn more about them. The writing style does a really cool job of just dropping you in the world and then revealing as it goes. So it doesn't spend a ton of time, oh, here is the world. Let me establish all this stuff for you. Let me really put it all out there. And similar to a D&D campaign, the DM probably hasn't planned out this elaborate world. They've planned out the town you're in and about, 20 miles around it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so, and similarly, they're like, I don't know what my character backstory is yet for my first 2 or 3, sessions. And then as I play, I kind of figure out more and more. And so the characters, they introduce all their backstories in like the last or second to last issue, issue 5 or 6. Which is a really interesting and good way that now that I'm invested in the characters, oh, now you're going to tell me about them. Okay, now I really care. Instead of, let me go through all like these character backstories and do all this like groundwork, and then we'll get into the story because at that point you've already lost me in the first or second issue because I don't care about him yet. So I think the writing was really, really good. The art was really rad, and it felt like a fun D&D campaign that I got to kind of jump along for.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad you liked it so much.
It was cool.
Well, I guess now the only thing left to do is to go into ratings. I really liked a lot of the like battle cries in this book. Like Valeros's like blood and battle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what would you give this on a scale from 1 to blood and battle for like battle cries?
All right. Good battle cries, huh? Well, my gut instinct goes with Remember the Alamo.
Okay.
Right? Because that's just the best battle cry as a Texan.
Very regional, yes.
that I could come up with. Is there... There's also for Narnia. It's another good one.
Good old Leroy Jenkins.
Oh, for God. Good Leroy Jenkins. Oh my goodness, that's classic. I think I'm going to go with a Leroy Jenkins.
Okay.
Because this book was all about iconic fantasy stuff with a new twist, and Leroy Jenkins has become the most iconic not role playing, but like the most iconic video game nerd culture battle cry.
Yeah, like fantasy game.
Cry. Leroy Jenkins. It's literally a card in Hearthstone.
Yeah, they made a card for that moment.
Yeah, that moment. So
and character. I guess.
I'm gonna call it.
Dang it, Leroy.
I'm gonna give it a Leonard Jenkins.
Okay.
A Leonard Jenkins, because it's a new twist.
It's a new
on a classic moment.
Great.
So I'm gonna give it a Leonard Jenkins.
Well, excellent. High praise. High praise for Pathfinder.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good time. Good book.
Well, that was Pathfinder, so I gave you something, so now you got to give me something. So what you got?
Right. Okay, so we're going to get back into my weeb heart.
Give me the weeb.
Right. So I'm going to give you an anime to watch.
Ooh.
And it is Steins Gate. And
Okay.
there's no space, there's just a semicolon. So it's Steins Gate.
That's some real anime spelling there.
You're dang right it is. So Steins Gate is an anime that came out in 2011 by White Fox Studios, based on a 2009 visual novel game. Right?
Sounds about right so far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes,
it
all
is.
checks out.
So I didn't know it was a visual novel game when I first watched it, and going back, it definitely was a visual novel game, right? And so it's the Steins Gate. The brief synopsis of it, right, is it starts off with a character. His name is, I haven't watched it in a while. I'm watching the second one. I remember his name. He goes by, he's like, pretends to be this mad scientist man called Hoyin Kyoma. And that's like his like alter ego that he goes by. And he has this lab with all these future tech things where he is actually a college student, actually is pretty smart, but kind of has this crazy guy persona who tries to invent all this crazy random junk just because he likes to. He has two friends. One, this is girl that he knew from, as a friend from forever ago. That's like she's my friend from childhood. That's
very anime.
Very anime, and
got the tropes.
Yep. And then his otaku, really kind of big hacker friend that I don't know if he has a job or not. He just spends all of his time, being on Reddit/@ channel, which is like their Reddit, right, or their 4chan or whatever.
Right. Where all the hackers hang out on the internet.
Yeah, I guess. And then they end up meeting a girl named, gosh, I can't remember any of their names. I should know her names. It's fine. It's not important. They meet a redheaded girl who is like actually a genius, who's like come to give lectures in Japan and is really, really smart. And they befriend her and they start working on crazy stuff together. And so it starts off as kind of a slice of life, silly visual novel-esque anime, and then slowly transitions into a sci-fi thriller because so they start working on time travel stuff, right? So they end up sending messages back into the past, which changes things in the future, and it ends up things starting to go a little crazy as it goes. And so it doesn't really feel like it at first, and it's kind of similar to the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, where it starts off kind of slice of life, and then as you go, you're like, wait, there's way more going on here than first meets the eye. And it does take some time to get into, but it's definitely an anime that plays with your heart and plays with your expectations, and is just like is a good time to watch as well. I don't know if you like slice of life.
Oh, I
anime
love slice
stuff.
of life.
Okay, cool. Well, it definitely has a lot of that in there, and it does, to be fair, has some pretty terrible anime tropes.
Which is to be expected.
Yeah, we're like, oh, there's this like really, really, really pretty girl. He's like, this is like the most feminine character here. Oh, but it's a dude? What? Like that's in there, right? And then like the big otaku guy, and then the super hot childhood friend, and then, oh, meeting this other girl, and oh, there's like this girl who's really into like moe maid culture stuff, and she's also really, really rich. Like, oh, who knew? And they're all friends with this one really like weird college-aged guy. Who would have thought, right? So it does have some pretty bad anime tropes, but once you really start getting into it, it starts hitting some like crazy thriller moments and like kind of intense psychological stuff that really, really sticks with you.
Gets you really invested.
Yeah. And they do it in such a really good way where it's still logical and makes sense, as much as, crazy time travel anime will. But at least emotionally, it feels really, really satisfying the whole way through. And the ending really wraps everything up really, really nicely to where, because I used to be a huge stickler for time travel in like the bad way.
You were.
Like in the bad way. And
I would always hesitate to like recommend you to anything time travel, because I knew you don't have an issue with like the mechanics of the
time
story.
Travel. Yeah, and I am proud to say I've grown past it. Time travel's fine, but I used to be pretty bad about it. I'm ashamed of it, but I'll say it out loud, right? I'll own that. And this one, it ties everything up at the end pretty nicely in a way that feels very satisfying and is not just a Doctor Who hand wavy timey wimey.
Yeah,
kind of
just like, oh, nonsense happened, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, it ties it off in a way that feels satisfying. So it's like 26 episodes or something, maybe not that long, 21, 22. So an average sized anime watching, something that if you dedicate your kind of off time to your anime watching, video game playing time, you can finish it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I definitely when I first watched it, really, really enjoyed it. And now that I've gone back to it, I'd say it's not quite as good as Your Lie in April that I gave you, because that's definitely so good.
That's so good.
But it's definitely up there. It's really interesting, and it's right up my slice of life sci-fi alley, which I can really get into. And the second season is going on right now. If you finish it, really enjoy it, and want to watch the second season as well. It's not as good as the first season, but it's still pretty all right.
Okay.
The thing is called Steins Gate Zero, so it's pretty great.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Steins Gate. It came out. It's pretty
Steins
old.
Gate.
So anyone out there, it's go to. It's probably on Crunchyroll, or I think it might be on Netflix actually.
Oh, really?
I think it is on Netflix. That'll probably be the dub and not the sub, but you can watch either one.
I'm gonna watch it on Crunchyroll.
Gotcha.
Because I prefer subs.
Yeah, me too. So it's pretty rad, pretty good. Check it out. Steins Gate. It's good stuff.
Sweet. Well, thanks for that. And with that, we have reached the end of the episode, Kevin.
It's over.
It's over.
Over and done with. Freaking put a fork in me. I'm over easy. Just pop me all over those hash browns.
I do love over easy.
I know you do.
Hash browns. Last night, I was at Jordan's very late. And when I was on my way home, I was like, boy, I had like a bowl of cereal for dinner because we didn't want to go anywhere.
Right.
But I need a little something extra. So I stopped by Jack in the Box and I had a Wakey Bakey hash, which is off of their late night menu, which is basically the stoner menu where they're like, hey, like, you want curly fries in your burger? Like, go for it, man. But the Wakey Bakey hash was like, an over easy egg, or not over. It was like a fried egg on a bed of hash browns with like cheese and white cheese sauce over it.
That sounds disgustingly horrible.
It was pretty disgustingly great.
Yeah,
I couldn't finish it.
I don't blame you. That sounds like something that you
But-
try to finish, and if you do, you regret it.
Yeah, I think I was maybe 2 bites away from finishing it. And
I'm
it
proud
was
of
like,
you.
I have to tap out.
Yeah. How big was it?
It was like $3. So it's like imagine like a paper tray you would get like some fries in at like a James Coney Island.
Okay.
It was like that size.
So like it was like hot dog sized.
Yeah. It was like hot dog size.
Gotcha. That's still like that's a lot of. I'm just sure there's a lot of just cheese and hash browns, and I mean
It
the
was
fried
a
egg
lot.
sounds good.
Fried egg was pretty good.
I don't know if I want a Jack in the Box fried egg.
Well, that's the thing.
Because was it like a real? Like, could you tell it was like a real egg,
It
or
was
was it
like-
like powdery? Can you powder a fried egg? I don't know. I know you can powder scrambled eggs.
It was like oval shaped, but
Good enough.
I don't know. Anyways, over easy.
Just pop me, I'm done, baby.
Yep.
Just like this episode.
Just like this episode.
Stick a fork in us. It's time to go.
It's time to. That's the saying.
Yep.
That's the saying at the end of the show, which is right now, the end of the show. Here we go. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Crushed it.
We did it.
Hey,
Um,
that sounds gross.
it
By
was
the way,
it was all right.
I mean,
I had an orange soda with it
oh
because
my
it was
gosh.
late and I didn't want to have any caffeine. And I was like, you know what goes good
Wait.
with breakfast food? Orange flavor.
Gross.
I didn't want orange juice.
Just orange
Just
flavor.
wanted orange, some sort of orange
Oh
drink.
my god.
So I had an orange Fanta.
Does Fanta not have caffeine?
I wouldn't see why it would.
I don't know. I mean, it's carbonated.
I mean, most things that aren't cola don't have caffeine.
Gotcha.
I think like root beer doesn't have caffeine except for Bargs, which has a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think the last thing I've had at Jack in the Box was like their ultimate cheeseburger or whatever.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard thing.
And that's fine.
It's pretty gross though, because it literally is just meat, cheese, and like some condiments. And
Yeah.
that's all that's on there. They don't put any lettuce. They don't put any onions even or pickles or anything. It's just meat, cheese, maybe some ketchup and mustard. And mayo because it's Jack in the Box.
Pretty great. It's my kind of sandwich. So that's the last thing I had there. I remember people talking about getting their tacos though, which sound pretty gross.
I've heard people really like their tacos,
I'm not.
which I'm just
I'm not
not.
convinced.
I'm just not a crunchy taco guy.
Yeah, me neither.
They're really messy and
Yeah.
just crumble away in your hand.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay, I'll turn this off.